أنت ربي وعلمك حسبي، فنعم الرب ربي ونعم الحسب حسبي. تنظر من تشاء وأنت العزيز الرحيم. نسألك العصمة في الحركات والسكنات والكلمات والإرادات والخطرات من الشكوك والظنون والأوهام الساترة للقلوب والمطالعة الغيوب. فقد ابتلي المؤمنون وزلزلوا زلزالا شديدا، وإذ يقول المنافقون والذين في قلوبهم مرض ما وعدنا الله ورسوله إلا غرورا. وثبتنا وانصرنا وسخر لنا هذا البحر كما سخرت البحر لموسى، وسخر لنا لإبراهيم، وسخرت النار لإبراهيم، وسخرت الجبال والحديد لداود، وسخرت الرياح والشياطين والجن لسليمان. وسخر لنا كل بحر هو لك في الأرض والسماء والملك والملكوت، بحر الدنيا بحر الآخرة. وسخر لنا كل شيء يا من بيده ملكوت كل شيء. كافى يا عين صاد، كافى يا عين صاد، كافى يا عين صاد. انصرنا فإنك خير الناصرين، وافتح لنا فإنك خير الفاتحين، واغفر لنا فإنك خير الغافرين، وارحمنا فإنك خير الراحمين، وارزقنا فإنك خير الرازقين، واهدنا ونجنا من القوم الظالمين. وهب لنا ريحا طيبة كما هي في علمك، وانشرها علينا من خزائن رحمتك، واحملنا بها حمل الكرامة مع السلامة والعافية في الدين والدنيا والآخرة، إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم يسر أمورنا مع راحة لقلوبنا وبداننا، والسلامة والعافية في الدين ودنيانا، وكلنا صاحبا في سفرنا وخليفة في أهلنا، واطمس على وجوه أعدائنا، وامسخهم على مكانتهم فلا يستطيعون المضي ولا مجيء إلينا. ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون، ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم ولا يرجعون. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم. تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون. لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون. إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون، وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون. شاهت الوجوه شاهت الوجوه شاهت الوجوه وعنت الوجوه للحي القيوم، وقد خاب من حمل ظلما. طاسيم حاميم عين سين قاف. مرج البحرين يلتقيان بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان. حاميم 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 حاميم. أم الأمر وجاء النصر فعلينا لا ينصرون. حاميم. تنزيل الكتاب من الله العزيز العليم، غافر الذنب وقابل التوب الشديد العقاب ذي الطول. لا إله إلا هو إليه المصير. بسم الله بابنا تبارك حيطاننا. ياسين سقفنا. كافى يا عين صاد كفايتنا. حاميم عين سين قا حمايتنا. فسيكفيكهم الله وهو السميع العليم. ستر العرش مسبول علينا، وعين الله ناظرة إلينا. بحول الله لا يقدر علينا، والله من ورائهم محيط. بل هو قرآن مجيد في لوح محفوظ. فالله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. والله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. والله خير حافظا وهو أرحم الراحمين. إنا ولي الله الذي نزل الكتاب وهو يتولى الصالحين. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء والسميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء والسميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء والسميع العليم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات والأرض وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض ولا يؤود حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم يا الله يا نور يا حق يا مبين اكسني من نورك وعلمني من علمك وافهمني عنك واسمعني منك بصرني بك واقمني بشهودك وعرفني الطريق إليك وهونا علي بفضلك والبسني لباس التقوى منك إنك على كل شيء قدير يا سميع يا عليم يا حليم يا عليم يا عظيم يا الله اسمع بدعائي بخصائص لطفك آمين أعوذ بكلمات الله تامات كلها من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله تامات كلها من شر ما خلق أعوذ بكلمات الله تامات كلها من شر ما خلق يا عظيم السلطان يا قديم الإحسان يا دائم النعمة يا باسط الرزق يا كثير الخيرات يا واسع العطاء يا دافع البلاء ويا سامع الدعاء يا حاضرا ليس بغائب يا موجودا عند الشدائد يا خفي اللطف يا لطيف الصنع يا حليما لا يعجل اقضي حاجتي برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم إنك تعلم ما نحن فيه وما نطلب ومن أرتجي من رحمتك في أمرنا كله ويسر لنا ما نحن فيه من سفرنا وما نرجو من حوائجنا وقرب علينا المسافات وسلمنا من العلل والآفات ولا تجعل الدنيا أكبر همنا ولا مبلغ علمنا ولا تسلط علينا من لا يرحمنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا ياك نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله نستغفر الله نسألك الجنة ونعوذ بك من النار اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم
We continue reading from Imam Ghazali's 40 Principles of the Religion. On page 169, the sufficient amount. Perhaps you desire to know the sufficient and say, there is no rich person who does not claim that what he possesses is a sufficient amount. Know that necessity only calls for food and clothing. If you were to abandon beautification regarding clothes, then 2 dinars a year would suffice you for both winter and summer, with which you would buy a garment of rough material to protect you from the heat and the cold. If you abandon indulging in your food and satiation with food under all circumstances, then a mud every day is enough for you. That would be 500 rital every year. Approximately 3 dinars a year are enough for you in regards to condiments, assuming that the prices are low. If not, then 5 dinars are sufficient. 500 rital is what we approximate for the bachelor. If you have a family, then take for each member that amount. If you are an earner and make in a day what suffices you for that day, then turn your attention to and preoccupy yourself with worship. If you seek more, you will be among worldly people. If you are not an earner but are busy with studying or worship and have acquired some property that constantly generates income, then I hope that you do not become a worldly person. Especially in these times when hearts have changed, stinginess has prevailed, and concern has been diverted from aiding the needy. In any case, acquiring this income is more appropriate than asking, yet on condition that it is your desire to be free from subjugation to hunger and cold, so that you may leave the property. Also, that you do not dislike death and do not love the property. The property should be the entry point for your food, just as the outhouse is its point of exit. You must only want it out of necessity and desire to be free of it so as to get out of the prohibition in the Prophet ﷺ statement. Do not take a villa and thus love the world. Indeed, if you intend to rid yourself of it in order to support the religion, then you are a well-prepared traveler, not someone overly concerned with property. Perhaps some people would not have the ability to be satisfied with the amount that we have mentioned, except with extreme difficulty and hardship. There is no harm, religiously speaking, in doubling the amount, for it would not turn one into a child of the world, nor remove one from the party of the children of the afterlife, traveling to Allah Azza wa Jal. So long as one intends thereby to repel the pain of hunger that could distract one from remembrance and worship without indulging in the world. Furthermore, any food that is left over should be given to poor and widows. After this, there is no excuse that calls for increase except indulgence, charity, or preparation for a calamity that might befall one's wealth. Indulgence is a turning away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a preoccupation with the world. As for charity, abandoning wealth is better than it. As Isa alayhi salam said, O seeker of the world for virtue's sake, for you to leave it is twice as virtuous. As for preparation due to fear of a calamity, there is nothing that can repel it when it is a bad opinion that has no end. Rather, one should repel it with good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's plan. That means picturing that a calamity will befall one's wealth from where it is not expected, and at the same time picturing that a new door of provision will open from where one does not expect it. Whoever fears Allah, He will make a way out for him and provide for him where he does not expect. Surah 65, verse 2 to 3. If the rare opposite is supposed, a slave should not believe that lifelong security from all trials is praiseworthy, Rather, taral is what polishes, purifies, and rids the heart of all filthy things. For this reason, it is assigned to the prophets, then the saints, then whoever is most like them. Therefore, rely upon the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and know that nothing befalls you except that there is good in it. For truly, the plan of all creation and all its dimensions is more knowledgeable of what is in your welfare. Wealth is like medicine. What we have mentioned is an approximation. Increasing or decreasing it is possible, according to the endeavor of some people and in some states. However, you should believe absolutely that wealth is like medicine. It is a specific dose of it is what benefits. Overdosing kills, and getting close to an overdose will cause one to be ill, though it does not kill. So be careful and take only a little, and avoid overdosing on luxury, for it is certainly a great danger. There is only a small element of difficulty in having less for a few days. It is not hard on a prudent person to deprive himself for the sake of a feast in paradise, due to his knowledge that the degree of future pleasure is commensurate to the degree of hunger in the present. The definition of stinginess. Perhaps you desire to know the definition of stinginess, for an individual may doubt as to whether or not he is stingy, and people differ about it. Know that the definition of stinginess is to prevent what the revealed law or public respectability obligates. Do not think that someone who submits to his wife or his relative what the judge has dictated, but is uptight about giving a morsel beyond this is not stingy. Do not think either that someone who returns a piece of bread or meat to the baker or butcher because of a slight deficiency is not stingy, even if he has a right to do so legally speaking. For the meaning of the revealed law in regards to these matters is to end the disputes of stingy people over an amount that a stingy person can bear. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if he were to ask you for it and press you, you would be stingy. Surah 47, verse 37. Indeed, it is necessary to comply with respectability and refute those who would speak ill, and that differs according to the differences of people and amount of wealth. If someone has wealth and is able to prevent his disparagement and censure by a poet with a small amount, yet he does not do it, then he is stingy, even if it was not obligatory upon him. The Prophet ﷺ said, whatever a person protects his honor with is charity. To verify, wealth was created for a benefit and is possessed for that sake. There is also benefit in spending it. Whenever the benefit of spending appears to be greater than the benefit of holding, yet it is difficult for a person to spend, then he is a stingy person who loves wealth. Wealth should not be loved for itself, but rather for its benefit. Therefore, it should be directed to the strongest of its benefits. Preservation of public respectability is better than and stronger than indulging in much eating, for example. Stinginess and love of wealth could lead to a person being ignorant of the strongest and most appropriate of two benefits. This is the utmost stinginess. If he knows yet spending is still difficult on him, then he is also stingy, even if he spends affectedly. Rather, a person frees himself from stinginess only when spending wealth on what it should be spent on, rationally and legally, does not weigh heavily on him. As for the level of liberal generosity, only spending in excess of both legal obligation and public respectability attains it. The treatment of stinginess. Perhaps you would like to understand the treatment of stinginess. Know that its remedy is a mixture composed of knowledge and practice. As for knowledge, it is that you know the destruction in store for the stingy person in the afterlife and the censure connected to him in the world. It is also for you to know that wealth, assuming that it remains, does not follow you to your grave. Wealth is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He enables one to possess it in order to use it for important matters. It is also for you to know that being spoken well of and receiving a reward in the afterlife is more delightful than withholding wealth for the sake of indulging in desires. Merely fulfilling desires is the nature of dumb beasts, while the former is the nature of rational people. If a person holds on to wealth for the sake of leaving it for his child, then it is as if he leaves him in goodness only to push himself forward to his Lord with evil. This is the essence of ignorance. How is this so? If his child is righteous, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is enough for him. If he is a sinner, then he relies upon the wealth to commit acts of disobedience, and the parent is the cause of the child's empowerment to do them. Thus, he has harmed while another indulges. As for practice, it is that a person forces himself to spend and does not cease to do so until it becomes a habit for him. Among a person's loopholes regarding this is that he should be duped by the expectation of a good name and anticipation of a recompense until he desires to spend. Therefore, thereafter, he graduates to subduing these qualities.
نبينا ومولانا محمد وآله وصحبه. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The justice of placing the celebrations of Ramadan. First we affirm, see that the back, the family of the on the adab of the cause of the money is close to the feature. One of the displays worldly characteristics of Muslim community where it is not close to the so we said what's that about? That is to fundamental to the Sunnah, to fundamental to the Sunnah of the Sahaba. The Sahaba always give away close to the Quran. Close to the Quran. And if you are senior, there is nothing about it. Imam al-Ghazali, rahimahullah, he commenced with a discussion yesterday already about another quality that will be of. We spoke about stinginess. And he also narrated a number of hadith to us that emphasizes the seriousness of the crime of stinginess. For example, we saw about the Shaykh. For example, Rasulullah we say that generosity is a tree that originates from Jannah. Only the Jesus was in Jannah. It says that stinginess is a tree that originates from Jannah. Only the Jannah. And he says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that stinginess. And he says, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that Allah makes the one who is stingy while he is alive. He must practice generosity on the occasion of his death. And he said that the stingy person, the generous person is unknown in the land. You don't know him as generous. You move it up. The person who is known is alive. The stingy person. And he said that two qualities cannot better within the believer: stinginess and bad character. Then also concluded yesterday that you want to take some time out today to understand the, I think I have told you about it. Here is what is Islam's perspective of how should we do the earning of money. It was not all must be bad. Don't be bad. How can something be bad? The market. And the market doesn't change. Again, because Ramadan is the earlier stages in Ramadan. Then he spoke about alcohol, quality that is to destruction. One should not have all of it. So it leaves you with this, and they spoke about the virtue of the poor, the fuqara, the masakin. We narrated the hadith of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that Allah, love among the poor, those people who died among the poor, is the recipient of the country of the poor. Subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, the rich of the wealth. So leave this impression in your mind that wealth is bad. That should not make any effort to earn wealth, earn money. Then al-Ghazali, in this chapter that they read yesterday, or maybe some talking will be very, it's a lengthy discussion, and I'll try to reach the discussion that much I can. But it speaks about the Islamic perspective on wealth. We started off by saying that no, that not all wealth is bad. Right? A lot of wealth is not something that is bad, but quickly entering a certain angle to wealth in the city. It's fine. The Prophet ﷺ said one day, our amazing is halal wealth in the position of punishment. Right? And he said that the dunya is the cultivating ground. Whatever you speak here, you think it would make an example, isn't it? Sallallahu Alaihi quoted, and people say, Ya Rasulullah, inni uhibbu al-mal. Or sorry, the Prophet I dislike it. I don't do that. The Prophet asked me, do you have wealth? He said, yes, I have wealth. The Prophet said, send your wealth. Send it to the next life. Send it to the world also. Because while you send forth to the dunya, you will receive it. Send your wealth forth to and he said that at the time of a man's death, angels ask, what did this person send forth in terms of the wealth that he spent in the way of Allah? While other human beings, they ask, what has his family and heirs, they ask, what has he left behind? So, a perspective. Wealth is not something that should be seen as bad. Wealth is something that is required, it's needed. Societies depend upon it. And we have obligations towards our families to take care of them and to take care of ourselves. In the time of al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was looked upon as the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Right? So you all hear the term Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Here's the Imam of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Look at his appreciation of wealth. So a man, he observed a person that wasn't working. He was known for worship and ibadah, and he did not She can, there's nothing wrong with her wife. And there's nothing wrong for her to assume some responsibility in the home, especially if the husband is not just to be home. But she's under no obligation. In fact, it's better for a lady that finds herself in that situation to, when a lady finds herself spending, our sisters, you find yourself spending in your household in areas where you're not supposed to spend. Your husband's made the one to you buying groceries, for example, you should record it as a debt in the name of your husband. Record it as a debt in the name of your husband. And this, you know how many times you find ladies that have sacrificed marriages for 20, 30 years, and the days are, I think, decided to be the wife. Yes, nothing. Just yesterday I was on the call with the 20 years. A lady was in the home. She contributed, she assisted, she took care of the children, and she really got to find it. So when she got comfortable for us. And I'm 50 years later, the husband gives her another ship. She must move up. There's no place to stay, there's nothing. And that's all based on ignorance. In Hadramaut, I've heard from Shaykh and teachers telling Muslims to have this contract with them. That they will do whatever they're doing and contribute, and so no problem. But it is reported as taking your name, that I will kill you from this day people. That I will claim from you. If you don't think most of this laws, charity is no problem. So ladies who support the husband is a beautiful thing. Only concern is that the wife supports the husband in the expense of the house. Because sometimes really is not lunch, or counsel. Nothing less. Everything she gave was altruistic, was a sort of financial nothing. So the point is that I have to earn money. There's no testing that a wealth is something that is like from the point, I'm not going to worry about. If that is what you are thinking, then you have. So eventually you're going to come to receive that wealth is basically considered as the camel will be thirsty, so will be tired, will be the provisions of a traveler. A traveler can't pack too heavy also. If it's a 1 week journey, just enough for himself for that 1 week. If he's going 5 weeks on a 1 week journey, sustenance of the not more beyond that which suffices. So having provision your destruction. How does too much provisions lead to your destruction? There's 3 ways how having beyond your need will lead to your destruction. Potentially, at least, how it potentially leads to your destruction. The first way is sin. If you have Ajib. In one hadith, the Prophet said, وَمِنَ الْعِصْمَةِ أَلَّا تَقْدِرْ. A means in which Allah, via which Allah protects you from sin, is make you capable of sinning. Right? How doesn't He make you capable of sinning? I want to watch pornography on my phone, but I don't have internet. By clothing that cover my aura, go to places. The first way which will lead to destruction is that opens doors of sinning. Had you been poor, you wouldn't have been able to access those doors of sinning. That's number 1. Number 2, he said that wealth calls you to be excessive in permissible things. And being excessive in permissible things are generally not desired. No. You buy necessary clothes, you buy necessary cars, you buy necessary things for your homes. You sit the whole day on Timo. Buying what? Buying a whole lot of things that you don't need. Ajib. My one friend went on to Timo, he bought himself tire inflators. I don't want to mention this name. So it also calls you to be excessive in buying things that you don't need. Wastage. The Prophet ﷺ said, love for this dunya is the root cause of all evil. Allahu Akbar. The third way he said in which it leads to your destruction is that excessive wealth results in you being deterred. You're occupied with your wealth and the things that your wealth does for you, such that you become heedless of the remembrance of Allah, from the dhikrullah. Yulhiya an dhikrillahi azza wa jal. And the dhikr of Allah, Imam Ghazali said, it's the foundation of eternal felicity. Asasu sa'adat al-ukhrawiyya. No. So when your wealth prevents you from The remembrance of Allah deprives you of eternal felicity, ultimate joy, ultimate ecstasy in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah make us from the people of dhikr. So your whole life becomes what? You're disputing with co-workers, with CEOs, with your boss, you in discussion and debate with your partners. You planning, how can I invest my wealth better? How can I earn more? How can I? You become preoccupied with all of these things, so you forget about dhikrullah, remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said of this in the Quran, Alhaakumut takathur. Amassing things of this world make you heedless of Allah. Alhaakum. At least your destruction. So Imam Ghazali now speaks about what is the necessity. What is the miqdar al-kifaya? What is that amount that suffices you? He actually puts values to it. But his values is, I don't know, the world has changed. He says that, he said what you should suffice yourself with in terms of wealth is your food and clothing and a place to stay. That's basically it, right? And that's all you need. So you avoid unnecessary adornment when it comes to your clothing. This is where it's like very interesting. He said what suffices you in relation to your clothing is 2 dinars, where you buy your garment for winter and you buy your garment for summer. But the value of 2 dinars is a lot of money. So I don't know what clothing cost in the time of Imam Ghazali. A dinar today is valued at around 7,000 rands. What type of clothing what type of garment do you buy for 7,000? I feel like what Imam Ghazali is saying makes a lot of sense, because it gives me a budget of about 15,000 rands for clothes for the year. Which is not too bad. Well, it depends also. But that's what he said. But I don't think he's intending it in the way. I think clothing must have just been much more expensive. Allahu A'lam. Because if you look at the rest of his discussion, he says that if you take the bare necessity, the minimum, what suffices you in terms of food, he said all you need for a day is a mud of food, which is about 750 grams of rice. Or if I was to convert that into another part of our staple diet here would be bread. A mud of bread is basically a full loaf of bread. A bread is 700 grams. Right? So you're saying a full bread for the day. Right? So based on that, he said that you basically need فَيَكُونُ فِي سَنَةِ 500 رِتْل. He doesn't give a value for that in terms of money. But he says, because rice and bread is something that you eat with a condiment, a gravy, right? So he said you just need that amount of rice for the day, 750 grams of rice. We'll call it a loaf of bread if you want to take the 700 grams of bread. And then he said that, and then for the whole year, just to add something to your rice or bread, you only need 3 dinars. Right? And then he also said sometimes 3 may be too little, so you can make it 5 dinars. So I already told you what the price of a dinar is. It's like about 7,500. So 3 dinars gives you what? Right? Just over 21,000. And if it's 5, it's not like within reason. But again, if I convert it to the value of gold in rands today, it actually sounds like you basically your groceries. If he's saying 3 to 5 dinars per person for condiments that goes onto your rice or bread, you're looking at 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, right? Which is a lot. In my families, I work on groceries. I work like 1,500 rands per person. Right? That's ladies that are getting more from their husbands. I don't want to make things difficult for you. But I work like on 1.5 per child. Suffices. But the point the Ghazali is conveying is that you're not lavish. You don't eat unnecessary. You eat basic food that fills your belly. Right? Inshallah, if you want some chicken added to that gravy, no problem. You want some meat added, no problem. But he's saying, suffice yourself for that which suffices. And we know, everyone knows what suffices him. We don't need to be extravagant. We don't need to. You must look at the many of the teachers in Dar Mustafa. They earn like $100 for the month. They live off 1,800 rands a month. Most people in Yemen, in Hadramaut, eat meat twice a year. They eat meat on Eid al-Fitr and they eat meat on Eid al-Adha. The other times they eat meat is when someone wealthy invites them over to a wedding or something of that kind. Weddings is a big thing for the people of Hadramaut because they're actually going to eat meat. Otherwise they don't eat meat. They eat chicken sometimes. Most of the time they eat fish. The most common fish also is not even fish, a shark that they eat. Predominantly rice with some gravy. Bisbas. Right? Simple lives. 1,800. How does a man, a wife, and a child live over 1,800 rands? Ajib. So he's saying, take what you need. Don't go beyond that. He said that if Imam Ghazali has the theory that if you, because Imam Ghazali lives in an agrarian world. In an agrarian world, people live from day to day. Our fiqh also speaks of living from day to day. We live in a society where people don't live from day to day any longer. Right? There's still people in society that work from day to day. Laborers, if you go to some boys working on a building site, they live from day to day. They get paid, I don't know what it is now, 250, 300 rands a day. They go home, they use that money for the next day, they go work again and there. Right? So some people still live, but generally the direction the world has taken is that people don't live from day to day any longer. People normally live like from month to month. You get paid at the end of the month and you use that money as you use the money for the month that lies ahead. You budget it for a 30-day period. But in the agrarian world, you live from day to day. So Imam Ghazali said that if you have clothing, you have a house, and your provisions is a mud of food, and some gravy that goes with it, and I work for an hour or two, and I earn enough to cover my provisions for that day, then he said you should stop working and go sit in a class of knowledge. Why still want to work? You already have enough provisions for the day. You've covered your basic needs for the day. Go sit in a class of knowledge. It's better for you. Right? He says the same thing in his beginning of guidance. Subhanallah, how has the world changed? Not only has the world changed, we started living month to month. We started having very tight employment contracts, and we became slaves to the system of the Western world. Became slaves to the system of the Western world. Most people don't feel like slaves. Ya Rab, may Allah free us from the shackles of the system of this Western world. La ilaha illallah. Where was he? He said eventually that وَرُبَّمَا لَا يَحْتَمِلْ بَعْضُ الْأَشْخَاصِ الْقَنَاعَ بِالْقَدْرِ الَّذِي ذَكَرَ. Some people may not be able to live off the amounts that I mentioned. They need a bit more. They need a bit more comfort. They need nicer clothing, more softer, more this, more that. So he said there's no problem for you to have more, double the amount that I mentioned. But if you're going to go beyond that, he said, I fear that you're going to become from the people of this dunya. And when you become from the people of this dunya, you won't be from the people of the akhirah. And you won't be from those who are traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your occupation in wanting more of this dunya will result in what? It will take you away from dhikrullah, it will take you away from ibadah, And all you will be worried about is enjoying this dunya, finding comfort in this dunya and enjoying this dunya. He then said, after your minimum that fulfills your needs, and if you want to be comfortable, then double that. So in other words, he said 700 grams of rice a day. If you want to be comfortable, double it to 1.5 kilos of rice. If you're 2 sets of clothing, if you want to be comfortable, double it to 4 sets of clothing. But he said going beyond that is problematic. Going beyond that inevitably means that you're going to be pulled in and drawn in by this dunya. He then said, and if you really want to earn more than that which suffice now, what suffice? He explained that 3 to 5 dirhams for your gravy, the mud of food a day, 2 sets of clothing for the year. That's in addition to your house. In today's world, your house must include basic necessities such as water and electricity and all of that. That's another, I don't know how many dinars that you must throw into the package. But he said, if you double that for extra comfort, no problem. But beyond that, you're going to become a slave of this dunya. He said, however, if you want to earn more, right, then you only have a rukhsa. In the Sharia, there's only a rukhsa, a license for you to want to earn more than these basic necessities that he mentioned for one of three reasons. Now, the first reason is for luxury. And he said that takes you away from Allah and results in you being occupied with this dunya. Or you want more of this dunya to give sadaqah. So you're working more so that you can give sadaqah. And then even if your intention behind earning more is so that you can give sadaqah, help the poor and the needy and masjids and madrasa and you name it, he said leaving wealth is still better for you. He said, Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, Ya talib al-dunya litabarra. He said, oh, you seek this dunya so that you can do good, so that you can spend. Tarkuka dunya, you leaving the dunya is better, more virtuous. Tarkuka dunya abarru wa abarru. I, however, find this to be a bit challenging too. I don't find it so palatable. Perhaps I think Imam Ghazali is speaking. You see, what happens within the Sharia is sometimes they discourage you of something and then no man by his natural disposition is going to do it. Like, what's the example? In our Usulul Fiqh, they make the example of when you have your taba' calls towards something. So the Sharia doesn't attach a ruling to it. I think sexual relations, if I'm not mistaken, right? How does the expression go now? I mean, نزع الطب أكثر من نزع الشرع or something like that. Can't get to the actual wording. But they make the example in one of the arguments. So a father must be a person of integrity if he wants to marry off his daughter. If he's not a person of integrity, then he loses his wilaya, his right to marry off his daughter, and it moves on to his father or brother and so forth and so on. Right? But some scholars, they said, no, even if the father is a fasiq, he still has wilaya over his daughter. Why? Because because even though he is not a practicing Muslim in terms of his religion and is disobeying Allah, but his natural disposition is stronger. And a man's natural disposition results in him wanting what's best for his daughter. So he won't just marry off his daughter to any person that's going to harm her. So they say he maintain his wilaya. Right? That concept. So I think similarly over here, they're not going to go ahead and encourage you to earn extra wealth to give sadaqah, because a man's natural disposition is inclined towards earning more money. But that being said, why I feel this requires some revision is because we sit at madrasas, we have institutions, we have teachers, we have salaries, and when we don't find support from the community, then it's almost impossible for madrasas and masjids and religious ventures to survive. Right? And if all Muslims are not going to earn money, then what's going to happen? How is the religious ventures going to continue flourishing? And I know that Allah is the one that does, right? But it's healthy if you have some people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has favored with a business acumen, business skills, that are able to enrich themselves and their families, but also allow that the community benefits from their wealth. In fact, it's important for Muslims to have such people that are spending on communities. That's ultimately what causes societies and Muslim communities to thrive. And there's precedent from the Sahaba Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayhim ajma'in. They were wealthy companions. And then Allah encouraged us also to go out and look for bounty. فَابْتَغُوا فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. Go and seek Allah's bounty. From the companions, of course, that were known for their wealth is who? Sayyidina Abdurragmaan bin Auf. Sayyidina Abdurragmaan bin Auf, his ability to make money was unbelievable. And his love for charity was even more amazing. Even more amazing. After Badr, to every companion that participated in Badr, he gave something like, I don't know how much gold coins, but the total came to over 40,000 gold coins, which is close to 300 million rands. He donated after Badr. Towards the end of his life, he left a wasiyah for the wives of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam to some poor people, and including the wives and the family of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to the same value, 40,000 gold coins, almost 300 million rands. Right? Ajib. They loved giving. Most of his estate he gave away. And when he passed on, the value of his estate was still, what I read, that was in pounds, the total, it is 700 million pounds. That was his estate after he gave most of his estate away. So what did he earn? And how much did he give? And how much did he benefit the Muslim community? Right? So yes, Ghazali is saying here, leaving wealth, even if your intention is to earn wealth to give as charity, is better. But we do need people, we do need wealthy people in our community. But the appreciation of wealth must be right. The extra wealth that they have should not be spent on unnecessary luxury. Right? Unnecessary comfort. Be comfortable. Right? There's nothing in the Sharia that stops you from making your home comfortable or driving a comfortable car or whatever the case may be. But know that when Allah's favored you with wealth, He gave you a responsibility. He made wealth come to you easily with an amana. Right? To assist His deen. How much times do we hear in the Quran, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ. Right? Over and over Allah speaks about spending your wealth, spending your wealth, spending your wealth. Surely those verses can't apply to the person that's working on 700 grams a day and the bare minimum, and he has nothing else. They're speaking about people that has amassed wealth. And regarding them, Allah is saying over and over, not that a person that has a little can't give. Everyone in its own capacity has that he can give for good cause. Allahu Akbar. He said the third reason, so the first reason why people will want extra wealth over and above their need is what? The first he said was for luxury. And that's frowned upon and takes you away from Allah. The second reason is that you want to give charity. But there he also said that abandoning wealth is better than giving charity. And then the third was, he said, somebody wants to al-istidhar li khawf afa. He wants to save because in case something's going to happen in the future. In case he doesn't have in the future. Like this speaks to the whole concept of life policies. It speaks to the concept of insurances, and speak about. The West has brainwashed us so much that every person, if there's no insurance on my car, I'm uncomfortable. If I don't have a life policy, what's going to happen to my wife and children? That's a brainwashing of the West. That is not Islamic concepts. Ajib. Imam Ghazali said this idea of earning extra in case things go bad, he said, وَسُوءُ ظَنٍ لَا آخِرَ لَهُ. You have ill thought of Allah, and there's no end to that ill thought. And he says this person must rectify his ill thought of Allah by enforcing himself to have good thought of Allah. Understanding that Allah is the one in control and Allah is the one in charge. Ajib. You must understand that Allah is the one that opens doors for sustenance where one cannot imagine. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will make a way out for him. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. And grant him sustenance from where he did not think sustenance would come. Ajib. It also doesn't mean that one shouldn't worry about his family. In the famous hadith of Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, when he wanted to give all his wealth away, the Prophet ﷺ stopped him and told him, for you to leave wealth with your family is better for you than leaving them begging. Idea is the balance. How far is one going to go in trying to secure my family? And in the process, where's me? Where's my deen? Where's my akhirah? Where's my community? Where's the poor? Where's the needy? Where's madrasas? Where's masjids? Where? Ajib. And also the person must understand that a difficulty that comes your way in terms of wealth, in terms of finances, in terms of struggle is he said, his exact words in Ghazali says, فَلَا يَنْبَغِي. It is inappropriate أَن يَعْتَقِدَ الْأَبْدُ, that a slave believes that when his whole life is free from any trial or difficulty or financial struggle, to believe that is praiseworthy. He cannot think like that. He must believe difficulty that comes his way in whatever form, finances or the law. وَالَّذِي يَسْقُلُ الْقَلْبَ وَيُزَكِّي. It is that difficulty that's going to polish his heart and purify it. وَيُخَلِّصُ مِنَ الْخَبَائِثِ كُلِّهَا. That difficulty is going to be what frees him from all bad and evil traits. And therefore, the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam were the first people that were tried. Difficulties came to them. ثُمَّ الْأَوْلِيَا, and then the friends of Allah. ثُمَّ الْأَمْثَلْ فَالْأَمْثَلْ. So put your trust in the bounty of Allah. And know that only that which is best for you and what was chosen for you will afflict you. فَإِنَّهُ مُدَبِّرُ الْمُلْكِ. نعم. لا يكثر همك ما قدر يكون. Ajib. He then, I'm going to just conclude this discussion because we're now running very late. I wanted to complete this in one day. I don't know if we're going to actually get to the other text today. We see what happens. But I want to conclude this discussion today because tomorrow I don't want to speak about stinginess again. Tomorrow we need to move on to the next principle, inshallah. So he spoke about treating stinginess. How does one treat stinginess? So he said again, the treatment for stinginess is an anecdote that is made of knowledge and action. As how the anecdote for the treatment of anger was knowledge and action. What else did we cover? Hasad. Similarly, the treatment for hasad was also knowledge and amal, knowledge and action. So the treatment for stinginess is knowledge and action. As for knowledge, is to know that your stinginess will lead to your destruction. And it will result in you being defamed in this world. Who likes a stingy person? No one likes. If you're known to be stingy, people don't like you. So you won't be liked in this world, and punishment awaits you in the akhirah. That knowledge. Now, and also you should know that his wealth is not going to follow him to his grave. Right? It's not going to follow him. only that wealth that he has spent will follow him into his grave. No. And then he should also know that the wealth that he kept for himself so he can have more luxury and comfort, as much as he imagines he's going to find enjoyment in that wealth, this is part of knowledge. As much as you imagine you're going to have enjoyment and comfort in the wealth that you're keeping for you, you must know that there's something that's more sweet. There's something that is greater enjoyment in it. And that's the reward that awaits the person in Akhirah that has spent his wealth. Now, he said that fulfilling your need now, amassing wealth, buying what you want, luxury, he said fulfilling your desires now, that is the natural disposition of animals. Animals are focused on fulfilling desires immediately. Now, but sacrificing now for a greater reward and pleasure in the afterlife, he said that is the way of people of intellect. So are you going to follow the way of the Bahaim animals or the people of intellect? No. He said, وَإِنْ كَانَ يُمْسِكُهُ لِيَتْرُكَهُ لِوَلَدِهِ. A person who says he's holding on to his wealth so that he can leave it behind for his children. So he says about this person, it's as if he has left behind good for his child, but he goes to meet Allah with no good. He goes to meet Allah with evil. And he says this is the essence of ignorance. Now, because if the child is a pious child, a child of piety, then Allah will suffice that child. And if the child is a wrongdoer, then the child will take the father's wealth and spend the wealth of the father in disobedience. And then he left all that wealth behind for a child that used the wealth for the disobedience of Allah, and he'll be laying in his grave and the harm will come to him because he left that wealth for a child that's going to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَمَّا الْعَمَلِ, as for action, he says your person should force himself to spend, even though he dislikes it. So he continues spending even though he dislikes it until it becomes his adah. One of the beautiful things of our parents, when they used to take us to the children when we were young, like my father always did this, was whenever they came around in the masjid with a towel, at the time they used to come with a towel, instead of donating himself, he would put a 10 rand, 20 rand in my hand, or my brother's hand, you put it in the towel. Train your children to give sadaqah. Train your children to give sadaqah. I spoke about something similar in last year's Rawha, and then I visited Junaid. Yes, Junaid. And then his son heard the Rawha about giving sadaqah. So whatever money he was collecting, a percentage of it he kept for sadaqah. So I came there with my son, so his son came to my son and said, yes, sadaqah for you. Train children to give sadaqah, because once it becomes part of their habit, their custom, they will always want to give. They will always want to give. Ajib. May Allah make us from those who like to spend, and may Allah not make us from those who hoard, from those who want to keep their wealth to themselves. No. 6:37. Shaykh Shab, is the time today for the Muslim Sakina? No time. We continue with the poem Ilzam Bab Rabbak in tomorrow's Rawha, inshallah. But if I didn't complete this now, we would have met tomorrow again on the same topic. So tomorrow, Imam al-Haddad will be speaking about what? Yeah, he'll be speaking of frivolity, al-ru'una, and love of status. Hubbul jah, love of status. Ya Rabb, every quality comes across We say, there's me again, there's me again. The last 10 qualities, when he speaks about the qualities of Jannah, they say, that's not me. May Allah rid our hearts from these evil traits and fill our hearts with beautiful qualities. Ameen, Ya Rab. One of the best ways to attain these qualities, to attain beautiful qualities, and to rid yourself from the evil, bad quality traits, in addition to studying and reading and learning the methods of purifying oneself, is the company of the Salihin. May Allah grant us their company. May Allah grant us their company. They purify you from where you know not. Shaykh Muhammad mentioned this in the Mawlud on Friday. When you're in their company, you feel exposed. But if you don't expose yourself to them, how are they going to purify you? Ajim. Ya Allah. Manata used to tell us that when he used to visit his teacher, Hafidz Abdurragmaan Mia, on several occasions he went, he sat there and he could feel that whatever wrong he's done, Hafidz Abdurragmaan could see right through him. So he would become too ashamed to open his mouth and say anything. Same thing. The same thing Shaykh Muhammad said, just from the mouth of a different scholar. La ilaha illallah. So he said that one of the hadith that al-Ghazali quoted was that even the food of a stingy person can make you sick. He narrated a narration that says, طعام الكريم دواء. The food of a generous person is a cure, and the food of a stingy person is a sickness. Subhanallah. That's why Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, when he spent the night by Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Imam Ahmad served supper and he ate to his full, and after he ate, he retired to his room, and the daughter of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was very eager to meet Imam Shafi'i, because Imam Ahmad spoke about his piety and his knowledge and what a great personality Imam Shafi'i is. So the daughter was observing him, and she prepared his water for his wudu, and so and tahajjud time, she passed by the room of Imam Shafi'i. So Imam Shafi'i eventually left the next day, and she came to her father. He said, "You praise this man so much, but I observed 3 problematic things. Number 1 is, he ate a lot. Number 2 is, he didn't wake up for tahajjud. And number 3 is, he didn't wake up dust for fajr." He didn't make wudu for fajr. So the next morning she raised that to her father. Imam Shafi'i was still there. So Imam Ahmad asked Imam Shafi'i, "What's this all about?" So Imam Shafi'i said, "As for eating your food, number 1, I knew your food is halal, and I wasn't enjoying the best of health, and the food of the generous is a cure. I ate your food because I was curing myself." And he said, as for not standing up for the tahajjud prayer, he said, when I went to go lay down, the book of Allah appeared in front of me and the sunnah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I was able to discover answers for 72 questions that I was asked through the book of Allah and the sunnah. And that occupied me all night until Fajr entered. So I wasn't able to make tahajjud because I was busy thinking of these masail until Fajr entered. And I prayed Fajr without making wudu, because I still had to do from Isha. Ajib. Subhanallah. So the generous person, in another hadith, the Prophet said, he is close to Allah. He's close to man and he's close to Jannah. And he's far from Jahannam. And the stingy person is far from Allah, far from people, far from Jannah, close to hellfire. Allahu Akbar. Allah make us from the generous. Tunchin. I see Toz also there. Toz must also read in a sheet for us. Yeah, tomorrow maybe. You'll take time to come to the front.
اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. بلغ القوم عني أنياء وأسيار فالنوائت مضى دائم ونتبع أثار علهم ينظر أني مراقب نظرهم سلهم استفتهم عني وخذ لي خبرهم وانبساطي إذا حان في المجالس ذكارهم رب غثني بهم وانزل بقلبي مطار
الله
يحيى وتشرق في منهم قمرهم يجتني من جنان القرب حالي ثمارهم ليتني احضر معهم في الدجاج سمارهم في محاضر بها نال المنى من حضرهم حيث جود المهيمن بالمواهب غمرهم جود من بعد تخريب المباني عمارهم لا أحلى للبصيرة والتقى في صورهم جل من قد خلقهم جل من قد فطرهم باللون شر حديثا أيامنا في حجارهم حين حرك فؤادي من غناهم وتارهم وانبسطنا بهم تافح علينا خمارهم حبذا حجهم يا حبذا معتمرهم حبذا في تهجدهم موائد سحارهم هؤلاء مقصدي يا قلب والغذارهم ادع ربك عسى يكتبك في من نظرهم يعمر الله خرابك مثل ما قد عمرهم والصلاة على من به قضى الله وطارهم ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا ربي علمنا الذي ينفعنا ربي فقهنا وفقه أهلنا وقرابة لنا في ديننا مع أهل القدر أنثى وذكر ربي وفقنا ووفقهم لما ترتضي قولا وفعلا كرما وارزق الكل حلالا دائما
وأخلا أتقياء علماء نحظى بالخير ونكفى كل شر
ربنا واصلح لنا كل شؤون
وأكر بالرضا منك العيون
واقض عنا ربنا كل الديون قبل أن تأتينا رسل المنون واغفر استر أنت أكرم من ستر وصلاة الله تغشى المصطفى من إلى الحق
دعانا والوفاء بكتاب فيه للناس شفاء وعلى الآل الكرام الشرفاء وعلى الصحب اللهم اهدنا بهداك
ممن يسارع في رضاك ولا تولينا وليا سواك ولا تجعلنا ممن خالف أمرك وعصاك
وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم
وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. يا ربنا
اعترفنا بأننا اقترفنا وأننا أسرفنا على لظى أشرف فتب علينا توبة تغسل كل حوبة
واستر لنا العورات
وآمن الروعات واغفر لوالدينا
ربي ومولودينا والأهل والإخوان
وسائر الخلان وكل ذي محبة أو جيرة
صحبا والمسلمين أجمعين ربي اسمع فضلا وجودا منا لا باكتساب منا بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول
نحظى بكل سول بالمصطفى الرسول نحظى بكل سول
صلى وسلم ربي عليه
عد الحبي
وآله وصحبه عداد طش صحبي والحمد لله في البدء والجلال سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته
وإلى حضرة النبي
اللهم
محمد
صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه. الفاتحة.